History is filled with grand deceptions, but few are as bold as selling a national monument. This is the story of a man who did just that. Our protagonist is Count Victor Lustig, a man born in Austria-Hungary with a gift for languages and an even greater gift for manipulation. He was impossibly charming and exuded an air of aristocracy, which he used to swindle wealthy passengers on transatlantic ocean liners for years. By the 1920s, he had dozens of aliases and a reputation in the underworld as a true master of the long con, always thinking bigger than the last. The year is 1925. The setting: Paris, a city brimming with life, but also grappling with the immense costs of rebuilding after the Great War. While reading a newspaper, Lustig stumbled upon an article discussing the city's struggles, particularly the high cost of maintaining the aging Eiffel Tower. The tower, originally built as a temporary structure for the 1889 World's Fair, was never intended to be permanent and was in a state of disrepair. The article mentioned public controversy, with some Parisians calling for it to be removed. For a normal person, this was just news. For Lustig, it was inspiration. A brilliant, audacious, and utterly illegal idea began to form in his mind. An idea so grand, it would cement his name in the annals of crime. He wasn't just going to run another scam. He was going to sell the Eiffel Tower itself, piece by piece, as scrap metal. To pull this off, Lustig needed more than just charm. He needed an airtight setup. His first step was establishing a credible cover story. He hired a forger to create fake but official-looking government stationery. He would pose as the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. The documents looked perfect, complete with embossed seals and intricate letterheads, designed to fool even a skeptical eye. Authenticity was key to the entire operation. Next, he researched and compiled a list of the top 5 scrap metal dealers in Paris. He didn't want just anyone, he wanted the biggest players. Using his forged stationery, he wrote personal letters to each of them, inviting them to a confidential and urgent meeting at a prestigious location. The meeting was to be held at the Hôtel de Crillon, one of the most luxurious and oldest hotels in Paris, a place befitting a high-level government meeting. The invitation was vague but intriguing, mentioning a unique business opportunity and stressing the utmost need for discretion, piquing the dealer's curiosity. His accomplice, an American con man named Dan Collins, played the role of his secretary, handling the logistics and adding another layer of legitimacy. The stage was set. The players were invited. All Lustig had to do now was deliver the performance of a lifetime. As the dealers arrived at the hotel, they were greeted with an atmosphere of secrecy and importance, completely unaware they were walking into a masterfully set trap. Inside the opulent hotel suite, the 5 scrap metal dealers sat nervously. The air was thick with anticipation. What could this be about? Victor Lustig entered the room, calm and authoritative. He introduced himself as a government official tasked with a sensitive and difficult problem. He began by speaking about the Eiffel Tower. He lamented its terrible state of repair and the astronomical cost of its upkeep, which the city could no longer afford. An animation showed coins and bags of money flying away from a vector graphic of the tower, visually representing the drain on public funds. Then, he dropped the bombshell. He announced that the government had made the difficult and very secret decision to tear the Eiffel Tower down. Gasps filled the room. The dealers' silhouettes leaned forward, their postures showing a mixture of shock and intrigue. This was an unbelievable proposition. Lustig explained the decision was highly controversial, and a public announcement would cause an uproar. That's why they were chosen to handle the disposal quietly. He presented them with the opportunity of a lifetime to submit a closed bid for the 7,300 tons of high-quality metal that made up the monument. To add a touch of realism, he even took the men on a tour of the tower in a rented limousine, pointing out structural weaknesses like a genuine inspector. The dealers were hooked. The combination of secrecy, government authority, and immense potential profit was too tantalizing to ignore. The bids were due the next day. Lustig was a keen observer of human nature. He knew the con wasn't about convincing everyone. It was about finding the one perfect mark. He watched the dealers closely during their discussions. 4 of them were seasoned, cynical, and asked probing questions. They were too sharp. But one man, Andre Poisson, was different. He was a relative newcomer to the Parisian business scene, and he was deeply insecure about his status. Lustig could see that Poisson desperately wanted to be accepted into the inner circle of top businessmen. He craved the recognition this deal would bring. While the others were focused on the logistics and potential problems, Poisson was dazzled by the sheer scale and prestige of the opportunity. Lustig identified this insecurity as his point of entry. Poisson wasn't just buying scrap metal, he was buying a ticket to the big leagues. Lustig pulled Poisson aside, confiding in him and making him feel like he was the frontrunner, the most trusted of the group. Poisson's wife, however, was suspicious. She wondered why such a monumental decision would be handled so secretly and quickly, planting a seed of doubt. This last-minute hesitation from Poisson was a potential problem for Lustig. He needed one final, brilliant move to seal the deal and overcome this doubt. Lustig arranged another private meeting with Poisson, preparing to play his final, most convincing card. The con was entering its endgame. At their final meeting, Lustig sensed Poisson's lingering doubt. It was time for a piece of psychological genius, a move that would turn suspicion into certainty. Instead of being confident, Lustig acted troubled. He sighed and began to complain about his position as a humble public servant. He lamented his modest salary, implying that it wasn't nearly enough to support the lavish lifestyle his important government position demanded. This was a carefully crafted hint. He wasn't explicitly asking for money. He was painting a picture of a corruptible official, something Poisson would understand. For Poisson, this was the missing piece. A secret government deal was suspicious, but a secret deal involving a corrupt official looking for a bribe? That felt real. He believed this was how the real movers and shakers operated. To secure the contract, he just needed to grease the wheels. Poisson offered Lustig a substantial bribe to ensure his bid would be the winning one. This was the moment Lustig had been waiting for. Lustig accepted the bribe with feigned reluctance, as if burdened by the moral compromise. He assured Poisson the deal was his. By soliciting a bribe, Lustig had not only secured more money, but had also completely eliminated his mark's final shred of doubt. Poisson now believed he had an inside track. He was no longer a victim of a scam, but a savvy player in a corrupt system. The hook was set. The next day, Andre Poisson delivered his official bid along with the full payment for the 7,300 tons of prime Parisian steel. Lustig accepted the payment with the utmost professionalism, providing Poisson with a worthless but official-looking bill of sale for the Eiffel Tower. He told Poisson to await further instructions regarding the logistics of the demolition, which would of course never arrive. With the briefcase full of cash, the equivalent of millions today, Lustig and his accomplice Dan Collins didn't waste a second. They went straight to the train station and boarded the first express train out of Paris, heading for the safety of Vienna, Austria. On the train, Lustig finally allowed himself to relax, opening the briefcase to reveal stacks upon stacks of money. The con was a spectacular success. Meanwhile, back in Paris, Andre Poisson waited. He checked the newspapers every day for the announcement of the tower's removal. Days turned into a week, then two. The newspapers were silent, and the Eiffel Tower remained exactly where it had always been. The horrifying, gut-wrenching realization slowly dawned on Poisson. There was no secret deal. There was no demolition. He had been swindled. He had bought a national monument from a man who had no right to sell it. The sheer scale of the deception was crushing. For Andre Poisson, the financial loss was devastating, but the public humiliation would be far worse. He was paralyzed by shame. How could he admit to the world that he had been naive enough to try and buy the Eiffel Tower? His reputation would be ruined forever. He considered going to the police, but the thought of the newspaper headlines and the ridicule from his peers was too much to bear. This was Lustig's true genius. He didn't just understand greed, he understood shame. He knew his mark would be too embarrassed to report the crime. And so, Poisson remained silent. He absorbed the massive loss and never spoke of the incident to the authorities. The perfect crime remained perfect. Lustig, relaxing in Vienna, scanned the international papers every day. He wasn't looking for news of his con, he was looking for the lack of it. When weeks passed with no mention of a scam involving the Eiffel Tower, he knew he was completely in the clear. His theory about Poisson's shame was correct. Most con men would take this incredible win, lay low, and enjoy their fortune. But Victor Lustig was not most con men. He was an artist, and the thrill of the con was as rewarding as the money itself. As boredom set in, an even more audacious idea began to form. If the scam worked so perfectly once, he thought, why couldn't it work again? It was time to go back to Paris. Just 1 month after his successful heist, Victor Lustig returned to the scene of the crime. His audacity knew no bounds. He didn't change the plan. He didn't alter his methods. He decided to run the exact same scam all over again. Once again, he assumed the identity of the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, ready for another performance. He gathered a new list of 5 different scrap metal dealers, the next biggest players in the city who hadn't been invited the first time. He sent out the same mysterious formal invitations, requesting their presence for a discreet meeting at the very same hotel, the Hôtel de Crillon. He booked the same lavish suite and prepared to deliver the same speech about the costly and dilapidated state of the Eiffel Tower. He stood before this new group of unsuspecting businessmen and, with a straight face, once again announced the secret government plan to scrap the tower. The reaction was the same: shock, disbelief, and then the calculating glint of immense profit in their eyes. The bait was taken once more. It was a breathtaking display of confidence. Lustig was counting on the fact that news of the first scam had been so thoroughly suppressed by Poisson's shame. However, lightning rarely strikes twice in the same place. This time, Lustig's luck was about to take a different turn. As Lustig went through his pitch with the second group, he followed the same script, searching for the weakest link, the new Andre Poisson. But this time, one of the dealers was far more skeptical. The story felt too fantastic, the secrecy too convenient. He wasn't buying it. Instead of being blinded by greed, this dealer decided to do what Andre Poisson was too ashamed to do: check the facts. After the meeting, he didn't prepare a bid. He went straight to the Paris police headquarters to report the suspicious encounter. He described the man calling himself a government official and the unbelievable story about selling the Eiffel Tower. The police immediately knew it was a scam. The authorities were dispatched to the Hôtel de Crillon to apprehend the fraudster. The trap was about to be sprung on its creator. But Lustig had an uncanny sixth sense for danger. He sensed the mood had shifted and that his time was running out. Before any money could change hands, and just moments before the police arrived, Lustig grabbed his things and fled the hotel. He managed to escape Paris yet again, this time without any money, but with his freedom intact. The second sale was a failure, but the escape was a success. Though he failed the second time, the sheer audacity of the attempt is what truly cemented his legend as the man who sold the Eiffel Tower. Twice. Victor Lustig fled to America, his reputation preceding him. The story of the Eiffel Tower scam made him a celebrity in the criminal underworld. He continued his career with a series of ingenious cons. One of his most famous was selling a Romanian box, a device he claimed could print counterfeit money. He even managed to con one of America's most feared gangsters, Al Capone, convincing him to invest in a fake stock deal and walking away with thousands. He developed a list of 10 commandments for con men, with rules like be a patient listener and never look bored, a guide to his craft. But his luck eventually ran out. His large-scale counterfeiting operation drew the attention of the American FBI, who launched a massive manhunt. After a dramatic chase, he was finally captured in 1935. The Count, who had eluded authorities across the globe, was finally brought to justice. He was sentenced to 20 years in the infamous island prison of Alcatraz, a place reserved for the most notorious criminals. Victor Lustig passed away in prison in 1947. On his death certificate, under occupation, the clerk simply wrote, "Apprentice Salesman." Even in the end, the man of 1,000 identities kept one last joke for himself, a final, subtle con for the history books. His legacy is a testament to the power of confidence and the incredible gullibility that can arise from greed, cementing him as history's most audacious salesman.